The flood. When the Son of Man returns, it will be like it was in Noah's day. Matthew 24, verse 37. The Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. Genesis 6, verse 5. The verb saw brings the reader back to each step of God's initial creation. But what God sees now instead of tav, good, is ra, evil. It is as if God regretted that he had created the world, now full of ra. Genesis 6, verse 6 and 7. And yet, God's regret contains elements of salvation as well. The Hebrew word for sorry, nakam, is echoed in the name of Noah, Noach, which means comfort. Genesis 5, verse 29. Thus, God's response to this wickedness has two sides. It contains the threat of justice, leading to destruction for some, and yet, his response promises comfort and mercy, leading to salvation as well for others. This double voice was already heard with Cain and Abel's Seth, and it was repeated through the contrast between the two lines of Seth, the sons of God, and Cain, the sons of men. Now we hear it again as God differentiates between Noah and the rest of humankind. In the days of Noah, the human race yet retained much of its early vigor. But a few generations had passed since Adam had access to the tree which was to prolong life, and man's existence was still measured by centuries. Had that long-lived people with their rare powers to plan and execute devoted themselves to the service of God, they would have made their Creator's name a praise in the earth and would have answered the purpose for which he gave them life. But they failed to do this. There were many giants, men of great stature and strength, renowned for wisdom, skillful in devising the most cunning and wonderful works. But their guilt in giving loose rein to iniquity was in proportion to their skill and mental ability. God bestowed upon these antediluvians many and rich gifts, but they used his bounties to glorify themselves and turned them into a curse by fixing their affections upon the gifts instead of the giver. They employed the gold and silver, the precious stones and the choice wood in the construction of habitations for themselves, and endeavored to excel one another in beautifying their dwellings with the most skillful workmanship. They sought only to gratify the desires of their own proud hearts, and reveled in scenes of pleasure and wickedness. Not desiring to retain God in their knowledge, they soon came to deny his existence. They adored nature in place of the God of nature. They glorified human genius, worshipped the works of their own hands, and taught their children to bow down to graven images. Of the Antediluvians we read, "The Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. So God said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth." Genesis 6, verses 5 and 13. God warned the inhabitants of the old world of what he purposed to do in cleansing the earth of its impurity. But they laughed to scorn what they regarded as a superstitious prediction. They mocked at Noah's warning of a coming flood. When Christ was upon the earth, he gave warning of what was coming upon Jerusalem because the people had rejected truth, despising the messages that God had sent. But his warning was unheeded. The Lord has sent us, by his ambassadors, messages of warning, declaring that the end of all things is at hand. Some will listen to these warnings, but by the vast majority, they will be disregarded. Thus will it be when Christ comes. Farmers, merchants, lawyers, tradesmen will be wholly engrossed in business, and upon them the day of the Lord will come as a snare.